How's it going, everyone? Welcome back. Today, we're going to be addressing the question whether it's better to buy a house or rent. There's a common misconception out there that renting is a waste of money, and many people say if you can buy a house and have a mortgage that is equal to what you're paying in rent, then you should buy a house. But it's not that easy because you're not comparing apples to apples. Then, we live in a society where most people say renting is bad 100% of the time and buying is the smart thing to do. It's even to the point if you have two people next to each other and one person says they rent and the other person says they own a house, everyone assumes the person who owns a house is better off financially just because they own a house. Now yes, owning a home can be the best financial decision you make in the long term, but only if you're actually ready to buy a house, because if you're not ready and you buy a house, then it can destroy you financially. So in this video, I will give you examples of each scenario along with the breakdown of the numbers so you can see when you should buy and when you should rent. Let's say you're in California and you are thinking about buying a $500,000 house. If you put a 20% down payment, then you're coughing up $100,000 up front. If you get a 30-year loan at a 4% interest, your mortgage will be around $1,900 per month. Then you have property taxes, and here in California, the minimum is around 1.25%, which equals about $500 per month. And that's if you buy a house with the lowest tax rate. But if you're buying a newer house or a new construction house in California, you'll have an additional tax known as Mello-Roos, which can easily bring your taxes to over 2%. So now you're paying over $800 a month in taxes. But for this example, we'll go with the lower tax rate. Then you have property insurance, which can cost around $150 a month. Next, we have repairs of $250 a month, and this can vary depending on how old the house is and how well maintained it is. Even though we're saying $250 a month in repairs, that doesn't mean you're going to be spending $250 a month every month. But instead, what might happen is you need a new roof 5 years after you bought the house, and this can cost an average of $15,000, which comes out to $250 per month. Other major repairs can include a new water heater, new AC unit, or new pool equipment. Then we have maintenance, which can be around $50 per month, and this covers minor things like fixing a broken outlet, fixing a leaking faucet, or painting a bedroom. That brings our total monthly cost of owning in this house to about $2,850 per month. Part of that monthly cost is going towards your equity, and in the first year, it's going to be around $600 per month of equity buildup. Then we must consider the opportunity cost of the down payment. Let's say you would have invested in a Vanguard index fund, which has an average return of 8%. So the opportunity cost of that money is $8,000 per year, or about $607 per month. Next, we have to consider the appreciation of the property over time. Now this one is a little hard to calculate because different areas have different appreciation rates. If you live in cities like San Francisco or San Diego, then your property will appreciate much faster than if you lived in a city like Sleepy Hollow, Wyoming, which is in the middle of nowhere. The national average for home appreciation is between 3 and 5%, so we'll go with 4%. And on average, people in Southern California live in their houses for about 13 years. So during the time of ownership, your property went from being worth $500,000 to about $830,000. So that means your house went up in value $25,000 a year, or about $2,100 per month. So over 13 years, your net cost is about $820 per month. This includes your mortgage, taxes, insurance, repairs, appreciation, and loan paydown. Now let's say you decide to sell your house after 13 years. You'll end up paying about 7% in fees, which includes 5 to 6% in commissions and 1 to 2% in closing costs. But you also had closing costs when you buy your house, so that's another 2% or $10,000. So once we add up your net cost of $820 per month over 13 years, the $10,000 in buying fees, and $15,000 in selling costs, your total net cost of owning your house is about $196,000. Now we can compare this to how much it would cost to rent, and this calculation is much easier to do since your only cost is the amount of rent you are paying minus the return you get from your down payment being invested. If you rented a house that is worth $500,000, you're going to be paying around $2,700 per month, give or take depending on your location. But since you didn't use the $100,000 for a down payment, you invested it, and if your return is 8%, then you will earn about $607 per month. So your net cost to rent is about $2,030, and if you rent it for 13 years, then the total cost will be around $317,000. You can see in this scenario, owning would be a way better financial decision, but let's look at when renting would be better than buying. We'll say you're buying the same $500,000 house, but this time you're using an FHA loan, so you're only putting 3.5% down, or $17,500. And because you're using an FHA loan, your rate will be higher than a conventional loan, so you get a 30-year loan at 4.5%, which means your monthly mortgage payments are about $2,500. But because you're using an FHA loan and your down payment was less than 20%, you'll have to pay for private mortgage insurance, also known as PMI, which is an insurance to protect the lender in case you default on your mortgage and the house goes into foreclosure. PMI can range anywhere between 0.3% to 1.5%. So for this example, we'll go with 0.8%, which is about $300 per month. Then there's taxes of $520, property insurance of $150, repairs of $250, and maintenance of $50 per month, which are the same numbers used in the first example, and this gives us a monthly cost of around $3,800. Then we have to consider the opportunity cost of the down payment. Just like in the first example, we'll assume you would have invested that money into an index fund that gives you an average return of 8%. So that's a return of about $100 per month, which means the total monthly cost to own is $3,900. Now let's calculate how much you are getting from principal paydown. We'll say you only lived in the house for 3 years because you had a job relocation and had to sell. So in the 3 years of ownership, your equity buildup will be around $670 per month. Then we have the appreciation of the house at 3% per year. So after 3 years, the house will be worth around $546,000, which is about $1,300 in monthly appreciation. Now we can calculate our net cost of ownership, and we can get this by taking our monthly cost of $3,900 and subtract $670 in monthly loan paydown. Then subtract the $1,300 in monthly appreciation, which gives us a net cost of about $1,900 per month. And since you had to relocate for your job, you will be selling your house, which means you have selling costs of 7%, which will cost you around $39,000. Then we also need to take into account the closing costs you had when you bought the property, so that's around 2% or $10,000, which brings your total cost of ownership to $117,000. Now we can compare the cost of owning this house to renting a similar house. A $500,000 house would cost you about $2,700 minus the return of your down payment being invested at 8%, which is about $100 per month. So your monthly cost to rent is $2,600, and over 3 years, that will come out to around $93,000. Now compare that to your net cost to own, which is about $117,000. Now these calculations are not 100% exact because we're making a lot of assumptions on things like tax rate and depreciation rate. Then we aren't considering the tax benefits you get from owning, nor do we consider the rent increases. But the point of these examples is to help you look at all the costs that are involved with owning a house, and it's not only about comparing the rent to the mortgage payment. Also, in these examples, we assume the house you bought would increase in value every single year, but it could be that the area doesn't appreciate as fast. If you buy a house thinking the appreciation will cover the cost for buying or selling, but prices remain flat, then it will cost you thousands of dollars when you go and sell. Then, in a worst case scenario, if the house you bought for $500,000 is now worth $400,000 because real estate prices fall instead of increase for whatever reason, then you're going to be at $100,000. This is what is known as being underwater because you owe more than what the house is worth. And this is what happened back in 2009. People buy houses thinking they would continue to go up in value forever, and one day they realized they owed more than what the house was worth, so they just let the house go into foreclosure. So if this happened around the time you have to relocate, you either have to sell at a huge loss if you want to keep your job, or you don't sell and you have to find another job. Then we have to consider all the fees you pay when buying and selling a house. Plus, you have to account for the time it takes to find a house that works for you. Then go through the entire buying process, which can take a month. And when you decide to sell, you have to list your house and wait until someone makes an offer, which can take months. Then once you have an offer, it still takes another month to finalize everything. Now this isn't meant to discourage you from buying a house, but it is meant to help you look at all the different scenarios that could happen when you decide to buy a house. Now let's look at some of the benefits of renting and buying a house. The first benefit of renting is the protection you get from flat or dropping real estate prices. Renting would be better when this happens because appreciation is a major item that helps offset the cost of owning a house. The second benefit of renting is the predictability. If your rent is $2,000 this month, then you know next month it will also be $2,000, and you'll know how much it will be every month after that. Now yes, you might have a rent increase once your lease expires, but that is something you can expect. This isn't the case when you own a house because on top of your mortgage payment, you could have 1 month where you need your AC machine service, which may cost a few $100. Then a couple of months later your water heater breaks, so that's another $1,500. And if you don't have enough to cover these costs, it can throw all of your finances out of whack. By knowing how much your rent will be every month, then you can budget better and allocate your money into investments that will provide you better returns. The third benefit of renting is the flexibility and freedom you get. This is especially true when you only plan to live somewhere for a short period of time because you can just pack your bags and go without having to worry about selling your house and paying all those fees. Now let's move on to the benefits of owning your house. The first benefit you get with owning is appreciation from that property. If you bought a house for $500,000 and 10 years later it's worth $1 million, then you get to keep that money and use it for retirement or investments, which isn't the case with renting because you don't get any benefit from real estate prices going up. The second benefit of owning is the equity buildup you get. When you own a house, part of the mortgage payment becomes equity, and you can think of this as a savings account within your house. During the first few years of owning your house, most of your payments will go towards interest, but after a few years, a majority of your mortgage payment will become equity, so you will see higher equity levels after owning your house for about 10 years. The third benefit of owning is the stability and freedom you have. If you have a family with kids, then it's probably better to have a place of your own where you know the landlord won't refuse to renew your lease 1 year, and now you have to relocate your family and possibly transfer your kids from one school to another. Also, when you own your house, you can have whatever pets you want and you can customize your house to your liking without having a landlord watching you. And the fourth benefit of owning is that in the long term, owning your house will be much cheaper than renting, which means more money to invest, more money to pay debt, and more money for retirement. At the end of the day, it all depends on your individual situation whether you should buy or rent. And it also depends at what point in your life you're at. Let me know in the comment section what you think on this subject. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.